meet the needs of prioritizing in our life. And so we really want to, again, tonight, take a little bit of a journey. Some of this is going to kind of like, it's tough to understand personality differences, but if we can grasp the generals, we can understand how we tick, and then even better yet, how we can understand how other people tick. And so we can come alongside them and understand who they are and how they process life. It's kind of like this, if I were to take my glasses off and I were to give them to you, you'd see things differently through the lenses that I have. And if I were to take your glasses off and put them on me, I would see things differently. And again, it might be blurry. It won't make quite as much sense. Maybe they won't be strong enough and or weaker. And so we each have a pair of glasses that we view life, how we process life, experiences, our history, our upbringing, and there seems to be some general categories that we come to viewing life, glasses, if you would, that you look at life through, lenses, a grid work, if you would. There's a grid work that you process all of life through. And so tonight we're going to start tonight with just one tool that's out there. I remember when I was going to Cedarville, we had to take the Myers-Briggs test. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one before, but it's a personality assessment trying to find out where you are, how you tick in your personality. But tonight we're looking at a different tool that's out there that's more, it's older yet than the Myers-Briggs, but it's kind of hit the road running recently in regards to the Enneagram. So it's an Enneagram test or personality analysis. And so you don't pass or fail on this thing. Just so you know that there's no pass and fail on this. It is simply it helps us get an understanding of the way that you and I process information so that we can better understand ourselves and understand people around us. So with that being said, we are going to, again, we're going to do two things at once. Can you handle that? Okay. On your right hand side, you're going to be watching over here on the screen. Okay. And you're going to be seeing hopefully in just a second, YouTube. Maybe not. Just a second into YouTube.
Just turn the computer, Trish. I was going to say, you just listen to the computer and listen to what she has to say. She doesn't do anything really.
Okay, so we're gonna process information from two different places. So those of you who are visual learners, turn to this screen. Those of you who are audio learners, you'll turn to this screen. Okay, just so you know, and you'll process the information. So I'm going to show you briefly tonight what the thing looks like. Okay, if you were to look at all of the personalities, they try to lump all the personalities in this big cycle that you'll see up here, a big circle kind of thing. There's numbers on this circle from 1 until 9. Okay, so we're going to be talking about trying to fit your personality. There's 9 different general categories of personality out there. And so they're trying to fit you. So you're going to plug into hopefully one of these numbers. And you'll see next to those numbers different things like loyalist. You'll see the terminology that comes alongside of some of those things to just help you understand. But we're going to go one by one, okay? And so what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to hear somebody present that category, starting at number 1, okay? And working our way down through number 9. But after number 1, what's going to happen is she's going to tell us kind of a synopsis of it. And then what Jess is going to do is she's going to read a whole bunch of questions. And if these questions kind of scratch your ear like, oh, that's kind of me. I understand with that question. I understand that perception. That's the number you're going to want to take down. Okay, so if you have a piece of paper or in your head, whatever you want to do, or just look at the screen, you're going to be taking a number down that identifies best with you. But also, I'm going to say this too. I think I have a next screen. We want to look at the people around us. What category, what number are our friends in, our family in, so that we can best identify them because they process information differently than we do. And so when we understand how they process information, we can now say, oh, that's how they're going to process this. I'm processing it this way. I can see the difference, and we can try to come together and understanding it together in a more harmonious way of doing that. So here we go with the first number 1. Okay, so number 1 is called the Perfectionist. Okay, so as you can tell from the title, there is going to be some categories in regards to this. This person is very ethical. They're going to have the understanding of dedicated and reliable, With that comes a motive by desire to live the right way. They just have an innate sense that this is the right way to do things. And they want to improve the world. Their goal is to make it a better place. Life of service
There's just two of them in there.
Life of service, integrity, and responsibility is the way they fill it. And so we're going to see their struggles, and we'll talk about those in just a second. I'll put these up. Let's go ahead and play. You want me to run? We have the 5:17 to 6:15.
Basic desire of an Enneagram Type 1 is to have integrity and to be good. They strive for perfection in all things, and they're afraid of making a mistake because they have this really strict inner critic who is constantly telling them that they need to be better. Ones are ethical and conscientious people who go through the world saying, things must improve and I must improve them. That's why their core fear is being wrong or evil. A Type 1's core weakness is resentment, meaning their dissatisfaction with the world can lead to simmering anger against themselves and others. Your tag is sticking out. Which one? Stick it back in there. Did you really take the car to the car wash? Because it's filthy. No, I can't watch Love is Blind with you because the sink is full of dishes. How can I watch Love is Blind when the sink is full of dishes? I need to wash the dishes. Deep down, their core longing is to know that they are truly good.
Okay, so Jess is going to go ahead and read for us at this time. These are, if you think you're a perfectionist, we fall into this category of this is your personality type, okay? These might be some of the things that might be true of you.
So what it's like to be a 1. People have told me I can be overly critical and judgmental. I beat myself up when I make mistakes. I don't feel comfortable when I try to relax. There's just too much to be done. I don't like it when people ignore or break the rules, like when the person in the fast lane at the grocery store has more items than allowed. Details are important to me. I often find that I'm comparing myself to others. If I say I'll do it, I'll do it. It's hard for me to let go of resentment. But I think it is my responsibility to leave the world better than I found it. I have a lot of self-discipline. I try to be careful and thoughtful about how I spend money. It seems to me that things are either right or wrong. I spend a lot of time thinking about how I can be a better person. Forgiveness is hard for me. I notice immediately when things are wrong or out of place. I worry a lot. I'm really disappointed when other people don't do their part. I like routine. I don't readily embrace change. I do my best when working on a project, and I wish others would do the same so I wouldn't have to redo their work. I often feel like I try harder than others to do things correctly.
Okay. As we process that, number 1, again, some of their struggles are that they're again critical and obsessive. They have to have things just right. They have to complete the task, or they have to have it in somewhat of the best of their ability completed. They fixate on the small imperfections. And their deadly sin, again, all of these are related to a sin. There's 7 deadly sins. And so there's a goal of each one of these to point to a sin nature that's behind it. And we'll talk more about that at the end of this thing. But the deadly sin is resentment or anger that comes out of that. So they stuff their anger and becomes, again, it just comes a smoldering resentment as they go through life kind of thing. And they don't feel they are perfect enough for God. They have that insecurity that comes in that with God. And they avoid fault and blame. They don't want to get themselves in any kind of situation where fault or blame is blamed on them. Okay, so let's go ahead and, that's number 1. Okay, number 2. Here we go. You ready? Let's go ahead and hit number 2 up here as well. This is the helper.
Type 2 has approached life with a core desire to be loved, wanted, and appreciated, with a core fear of being rejected. They are thoughtful and generous people with an eerily accurate way of guessing what your needs might be. When they're feeling stressed, Type 2s can struggle with feeling overly people-pleasing and putting other people's needs above their own. Are you hungry? I'll cook for you. Babe, are you mad at me? Do you want kids? I want 5. Maybe 6. Okay, 8. I want 8 kids. Their core weakness is pride, which, yes, I know it sounds crazy because 2s appear so selfless. But the pride of a 2 comes into play when they believe that others are more needy than they are and that they alone know what's best. 2s struggle with believing that they are enough just the way they are. That's why an Enneagram 2's core longing is to know that they are wanted and loved.
Okay, so here we are. They're very warm, they're very caring, and they're giving. Extremely on that giving. They just pour out of them. They're motivated by a need to be loved and to be needed. They thrive on that. I'm needed. I have to keep on fixing that savior complex we kind of talked about a little bit this morning of that loved and need. So there's a generous. They're generous in how they love well and care for others. The relationship stability is threatened by their exposure of their needs or their own feelings, and so they don't want to see their own realities of hurt and needing in their lives. They only want to deal with the people outside of their life. So they oftentimes have poor boundaries. They have hard time saying no because they value relationships so highly. Relationship is their end game. That's the way they're motivated. The struggles become most sensitive. They're most sensitive to criticism. Okay, relationship is the critical key, the backbone of them. So pride is their deadly sin, and avoid acknowledgement of their own needs is one of the things they struggle. So here's some thoughts along that one.
What it's like to be a 2. When it comes to taking care of others, I don't know how or when to say no. I am a great listener, and I remember the stories that make up people's lives. I am anxious to overcome misunderstandings in a relationship. I feel drawn to influential or powerful people. People think I'm psychic because I usually know what other people need or want. Even people I don't know well share deep stuff about their lives with me. It seems like people who love me should already know what I need. I need to be acknowledged and appreciated for my contributions. I am more comfortable giving than receiving. I like my home to feel like a safe and welcoming place for family and others. I care a great deal about what people think of me. I want other people to think I love everyone, even though I don't. I like it when the people who love me do something unexpected for me. Lots of people ask me for help, and it makes me feel valuable. When people ask me what I need, I have no idea how to answer. When I'm tired, I often feel like people take me for granted. People say my emotions can feel over the top. I feel angry and conflicted when my needs conflict with others. Sometimes it is hard for me to watch movies because I find it almost unbearable to see people suffer. I worry a lot about being forgiven when I make mistakes.
Okay. So here we are. So we have number 1 and number 2, and now we're going to go ahead and head into number 3. Okay, these are traits. I remind you, these are general categories that we fall into. So be sensitive thinking about how you fit into these. Any of these ring a bell with you? Performance.
Are motivated by the desire to be successful and admired. Because of this, they highly value productivity and efficiency. They go after goals the way that your dog probably goes after mud puddles after getting a bath. When a type 3 is not doing well, they can be impatient and frustrated. An unhealthy type 3 will have a lot of trouble processing what's going on internally, what's going on emotionally, but they're not going to show you that. Oh no, because a core weakness of the Enneagram 3 is deceit. This means that they will hide their true self from the world while performing the song and dance that they're happy and admirable and super successful. Off to work, off to a not working event, but I am going on a date with a super hot guy named John. And Enneagram 3's core longing is the thing that they have been striving to hear their entire life. Somewhere along the way when they were a little kid, they received the message that they were only worthy of love based off their accomplishments. So their core longing is to know that they are loved just for being who they are.
Okay, so with that performer comes some struggles. It's a sin of self-deceit. In other words, they don't want to deal with the reality. They want to keep a facade. Overarching workaholics, they're just, again, constantly trying to go. They again, are on the move because they're trying to perform. And they're fearful. Their failure is acceptability, and then they avoid failure. Once again, performance-based.
What it's like to be a 3. It's important for me to come across as a winner. I love walking in a room and knowing I'm making a great first impression. I could persuade Bill Gates to buy a Mac. The keys to my happiness are efficiency, productivity, and being acknowledged as the best. I don't like it when people slow me down. I know how to airbrush failure so it looks like success. I'd rather lead than follow any day. I'm competitive to a fault. I can find a way to win over and connect with just about anyone. I am a world champion multitasker. I keep close watch on how people are responding to me in the moment. It's hard for me to not take work along on vacation. It's hard for me to name or access my feelings. I'm not one to talk much about my personal life. Sometimes I feel like a phony. I love setting and accomplishing measurable goals. I like other people to know about my accomplishments. I like to be seen in the company of successful people. I don't mind cutting corners if it gets the job done more efficiency. People say I don't know how or when to stop working.
So performance is your goal. Right? That's what you're living for, a facade. That's again, and some of this comes from insecurities as a young person, when parents perhaps would encourage you and only acknowledge you and only help you understand that you are based on what you produce. Okay, so this is sometimes a challenge that comes out of this one because you're a performer. Number 3, romantics. Number 4. I'm sorry, romantics.
Type 4s approach the world creatively with a core desire of being unique and authentic. They value connecting on deeper levels, and they have the unique ability to see beauty in the world. Discovering and staying true to their identity and self-expression is extremely important to a Type 4. This is why their core fear, which is being insignificant or fundamentally flawed, is so scary to a 4.
I just have a lot of feelings right now.
Can you feel it? You don't understand me. They don't just want to fade away from the world, having left no impact. A Type 4's core weakness is envy. They constantly desire what others have, a better house, a cooler job, a happier family. This envy, paired with the belief that they're fundamentally flawed, makes 4s go on this never-ending quest to fill up this missing piece inside of them that other people have, and if they could just have that missing piece, things would be better. An Enneagram 4's core longing is to know that they are seen and loved for who their authentic self is.
So with this one, they are extremely creative. They have a great mind for, again, the abstract. They have, again, the ability to be sensitive, but at the same time, you'll notice they have highs and they have lows emotionally. They have a roller coaster that they live on, and they're motivated by a need to be understood. And so with that, they have an oversized feelings. They experience just oversized feelings on both ends, as we mentioned already. It's high highs and low lows, and they avoid being ordinary. They want to be different. They want to be eccentric to some degree. Attuned to beauty and creativity. They're in touch with the world around them to just enjoy it. Accepting themselves as they are. They moody. They have self-pity. They melodramatic in the way they present themselves. They're needy. They're a high maintenance friendship. Again, you just have to give to them relationally because they are, again, they're looking for a perfect world. They're looking for a perfect environment. And so they're always, again, up and down on a roller coaster. So sin is envy, again, wanting to be happier with life. And they see that life in other people, and so they want what the other person has.
Okay, what it's like to be a 4. I like things that are unconventional, dramatic, and refined. I'm definitely not a fan of the ordinary. I never really felt like I belonged. I have so many feelings in a day, it's hard to know which ones to pay attention to first. Some people think I'm aloof, but I'm really just unique. In social situations, I tend to hang back and wait for others to approach me. Melancholy is comfortable for me, so it's annoying when people try to cheer me up. I'm not like everyone else. Phew. I'm very sensitive to criticism, and it takes me a while to get over it. I spend a lot of time trying to explain myself. When people tell me what to do, I'm often tempted to do the opposite. Sometimes I just disappear and go radio silent for a few days. I'm okay with sad songs, sad stories, and sad movies. Overly happy people give me a headache. I feel there is something essentially lacking in me. It's really hard for me to settle into a relationship because I'm always looking for my ideal soulmate. I'm self-conscious and it's hard for me to find my place in a room full of people. People say I'm too tense and my feelings overwhelm them. I'm either an artist or highly creative. I come up with one amazing creative idea after another. It's executing them that's hard. Lots of people misunderstand me and it makes me frustrated. I pull people in, but when I get nervous and then push them away. I worry a lot about abandonment.
Okay. So here we are with number 4. So I'm going to pause right here because we have 5 more yet to go and I want to lose you. Okay. So I want you to think right now. We've gone through 4 different ones so far. Okay. So I remind you what they are. We're going to go back here to the perfectionist. Do you know anybody in your life, you don't have to say it out loud right this second, that falls in this category, that they're just the extreme critic? The smallest things happen to come up against them and bump up against them and makes them frustrated and difficult. You see a helper in your life, somebody that is, again, a person that just keeps on giving. They just won't stop. They just keep on moving. And if they're not moving, they're not happy because they have to keep on doing that. Then we have the understanding of performer, somebody that's just, again, actively pursuing on the outside, going crazy, 100 miles an hour, again, towards, an understanding of producing something, of having people look at them and admire them because they have everything together on the outside. And number 4 is a romantic. This is the person, again, that is just looking for a world that's perfect, and in their world for quest for perfection, they have emotional highs and lows that just take them all over the place. Okay, you guys got some names in your mind or people in your mind that would, again, fall into those categories? Okay, good. Okay, so let's keep on going because we're going to head in now to the investigator. Okay, so here's number 5. I see some kids pointing fingers.
They're done. we were done at 1 and 2.
Type 5's desire to be knowledgeable and competent. They have this insatiable thirst for knowledge that stems from their core fear of being ignorant. That's why they spend so much time and energy collecting information and making sure that they're self-sufficient. You never know when you might need to research something. I'm almost ready for lunch! Just a couple more. So pokey. Oh, I found an ant. I wonder why ants go on cacti. Did you bring your phone? I'm gonna look it up. Their core weakness is avarice, which means that they don't feel like they have enough inner resources to meet the world's expectations of them. This means that they hoard their energy the way that a dragon hoards treasure. And Enneagram 5's core longing is to know that their needs are not a burden.
They tend to be analytical. They're usually detached. Okay, so that means they're involved in their own world. They're trying to seek more knowledge. They're trying to understand the way things work. They have to comprehend all of that. Again, do you have your phone so we can look that up? Kind of thing. That kind of and they're sometimes very private in regards to that. Their motives to gain knowledge and conserve energy. They want to avoid reality, relying on others. Again, they just simply want to be in themselves. They want to have enough knowledge and capability to prove and to do at their own longing, at their own bidding. And they have a long view of things. Again, we're going to see. Is it hoarding? Is this someone hoarding? They're going to be hoarders of themselves, and we'll talk about that in here just a second. Their struggles. Okay, so in the struggle end of things, they have a tendency of hoarding. That's self-sufficient existence. In other words, they have to have all their world put together and have their own answers. They don't want to be a burden to anybody else. They have to be sufficient in and of themselves because they're desiring autonomy. They don't want anybody else to have a responsibility over them or to be over them. And so with that, they stuff their fears. They rely on self rather than rely on faith, and they struggle with feeling of incapable or incompetent, and they don't want to depend on anyone else.
What it's like to be a 5. I can take care of myself, and I think others could do the same. I don't always say things out loud, but in my head, I am pretty sarcastic and cynical. I often feel awkward around other people. I'm okay if people ask me a few questions about myself, but I don't like it when people want too much information. I need time alone. If I want people to know how I feel, I will tell them. I generally wish they wouldn't ask. I think thoughts are more reliable than feelings. I need a couple of days to process an experience or know how I feel about something. People are wasteful. I hold on to what I have. Often I find that I would rather observe than participate. I trust myself. That means I think about things for a while and then I make my own decisions. I can't understand why people get together to just hang out. I'm a listener. I have to be very careful with my time and energy. I get tired when I have to be with people for too long. I often felt invisible as a child. Sometimes as an adult, I choose to be invisible. Sometimes I think I should be more generous. It's hard for me. In groups, being uninformed makes me very uncomfortable. I don't like big social gatherings. I'd rather be with a few people. Material possessions don't make me happy.
Okay, so number 5. Let's go on to number 6. This is the loyalist.
As the loyalist, type 6s are methodical, responsible, and faithful people. They're the ones still using grandma's old recipe because it's tradition. Their core desire is to have security and guidance in their life. And their core fear is actually feeling fear itself. They fear that being without support or guidance will just completely destroy their well-being. We're out of snacks. We're gonna starve to death. I see your side. But on the other hand, I also see your side. So maybe we should just ask somebody else. 6s are labeled the loyalist because they excel at supporting others, but the one person a 6 has trouble supporting is themselves. They don't trust themselves, they don't believe in themselves, they think poorly of themselves. This ties into their core weakness, which is anxiety. When they're met with stressful challenges, 6 look at the world through worst case scenario glasses. At their core, 6s long to know that they are truly safe and secure.
The sky is falling, okay? Everything from a small little fingernail break to, everything is just looked at as a great trial and something that's going to have doom and gloom at the end of it. But these people are extremely committed. These people are, again, they're practical and they're sometimes funny. Jess and I were just talking about one of our friends that's this way, and they're just hilarious. They're fun to be around. But behind all that, I can remember she had, back in Ohio, she had mouse traps all over her house kind of thing, and she couldn't, she didn't want to see the mouse or anything, and so I'd have to go over there and empty these things. Her husband set up duct tape on the end of a stick to kind of duct tape the critters and to take them outside, and she just, but she was extremely hilarious. She's the life of the party. But she was one of these, but it was always the worst case scenario. What if? What if the mouse has rabies? All those kind of things that come in, because it was fear, and she had a great need for security, and so they're again productive, they're logical thinkers, they're honest, they're reliable. Fear is the deadly sin. Again, a deep-seated need to feel secure. So with that comes a struggle to get out of their own anxiety and fear. They're always trying to overcome their own anxiousness that's within them. So they always have the fight, no matter what the circumstances. They're always either in the fight or the flight mode.
Okay, what it's like to be a 6. I'm always imagining and planning for the worst. I often don't trust people who are in authority. People say I am loyal, understanding, funny, and compassionate. Most of my friends don't have as much anxiety as I do. I act quickly in a crisis, but when things settle down, I fall apart. When my partner and I are doing really well in our relationship, I find myself wondering what will happen to spoil it. Being sure I've made the right decision is almost impossible. I'm aware that fear has dictated many of my choices in life. I don't like to find myself in unpredictable situations. I find it hard to stop thinking about the things I'm worried about. I'm generally not comfortable with extremes. I usually have so much to do, it's hard for me to finish tasks. I'm most comfortable when I'm around people who are pretty much like me. People tell me I can be overly pessimistic. I'm slow to start, and once I do get started, I find myself continuing to think about what could go wrong. I don't trust people who give me too many compliments. It helps me to have things in some kind of order, I like to be told I'm good at my job, but I get very nervous when my boss wants to add to my responsibilities. I have to know people for a long time before I can really trust them. I'm skeptical of things that are new and unknown.
And they stick with you for a very, very long time. Okay, number 7 is the enthusiast. These are the fun people. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this number 7 here. Okay.
Type 7s, the enthusiasts, desire to be fully satisfied and happy. In their pursuit of this, they jump from one experience to the next in the hopes that one of those will finally make them feel content. They tend to be really joyful people with the ability to lift others up. The biggest fear of an Enneagram 7 is being deprived or in emotional pain. So, type 7s tend to avoid boredom at all costs because if they get into that bored state, they might slip into thinking about uncomfortable feelings that they do not want to deal with. So bored! Whose idea was it to stay home today? Homo sapien, Captain, again, hallucinogen. At their core, 7s long to know that they will be taken care of.
So 7s they're spontaneous. These are the people that are just on the fly. I had one of these roommates in college, and just on the fly, adventurous. I mean, one time we grabbed those surgical tubing. We put a knot in the one end of it, and we went to the shower heads and filled up the surgical tube, and it turns into a long hot dog kind of thing, and you hold the end of it, and it's a huge squirt gun. And so there was one night that instantaneously all the electricity went out at Cedarville. So we went out there and we grabbed these things, and it was his idea, not mine. And we filled these things up, and we're soaking people because nobody could see you because it was totally all the lights were out. But just that spontaneous response, all about the fun. Not one thing, they couldn't stand still. They were just constantly always on the move, looking from one happy experience to the next happy experience, looking for that extreme. How far can you go? What's the next thing that's going to give you a happy high, an excitement kind of thing in life? And so happiness is their anticipation. So as they're going through life, they're just looking for things that are going to, again, excite them. They're committed. Their commitment can be challenging because you know what? They don't want to go from one happy thing to the next happy thing. They don't want to have the drudgery being committed to something that's not going to bring them happiness. And so they avoid pain, and their sin is really an understanding of gluttony. And we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. But they're again, this characteristic in people, they have a tendency because they keep pursuing highs. They're looking for another happy moment and experience. They have a vulnerability towards drug addictions or any other addiction kind of thing, just because they're on that constant motion of looking for something greater, something more to experience and a greater fun. Okay, so number 8.
Do you want me to do what it's like?
Oh, sure.
What it's like to be a 7. I'm always the first person up for a last-minute adventure. I'm an optimist to a fault. I don't like making hard and fast commitments to things. I suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out. Anticipation is the best part of life. People close to me say I can be argumentative and act superior. Variety and spontaneity are the spice of life. Sometimes I get so eager for the future I can hardly wait for it to get here. It's hard for me to finish things. When I get close to the end of a project, I start thinking about the next thing, and then I get so excited I sometimes just move on. I usually avoid heavy conversations and confrontations. When people I care about are having a hard time, I help them look at the bright side of the situation. Other people think I am sure of myself, but I have lots of doubts. I'm popular and have lots of friends. When things get too serious for too long, I usually find a way to get people to lighten up, often by telling jokes and funny stories. I don't like endings, so I usually wait for people to break up with me. I quickly get bored with the same routine and like to try new things. Almost everything can be more fun and entertaining with a little effort. I think people worry more than they should. Life is better than people imagine. It's all about how you explain things to yourself. I don't like it when people have expectations of me.
So holds them down. Okay, so number 8 is the challenger. And so here we have a commanding, intense people. These are the ones that are, again, confrontational. That's their gift. That's a rich gift. For these guys it is anyway. They're confrontational. Again, they're motivated by being strong and not weak or vulnerable. So let's go ahead and listen to this one.
Type 8s desire to protect themselves and their loved ones. They may come off as a fierce warrior, but get to know them and I guarantee you they have the biggest heart of anyone you will ever meet. The core fear of an Enneagram 8 is to be weak, powerless, or manipulated. This means that in relationships, 8s tend to cover up their weaknesses so that nobody can take advantage of them. When a Type 8 is in peak form, however, they are decisive advocates for justice. Timmy said what to you? What's his address? I'm gonna go over there right now and give him a piece of my mind. What's his address? Do you know his address? Give me his address. An Enneagram 8's core longing is to know that they will not be betrayed.
Sorry, I have to use the name Jared as one of these. So, they're commanding and intense. They're great friends. They're exceptional leaders and champions for those who are the underdogs, those weak ones. They again fight up and they stick up for those people who are weaker than they are. With that understanding, their struggles, they steamroll right over top of people. They just take out whoever's in front of them. There's no gray areas. It's either black or white. There's no middle ground. It's just one way or the highway. They don't follow well. They have a hard time because they're not in control and understand where they're going. So they're slow to trust others. They avoid feeling weak or vulnerable. Their deadly sin is lust and an impulse. They're impulsive in regards to the way they deal with things.
What it's like to be an 8. I've been told that I'm too blunt and aggressive. Doing things halfway is not my spiritual gift. I enjoy a good verbal skirmish just to see what others are made of. In relationships that matter to me, I insist on being honest about conflict and staying in the fight till things are worked out. It's hard for me to trust people. Justice is worth fighting for. I can sniff out other people's weaknesses the first time I meet them. Saying no isn't a problem for me. I welcome opposition. Bring it. I make decisions fast and from the gut. I don't like it when people beat around the bush. I'm wary of people who are super nice. When I walk into a room, I know immediately who has the most power. I don't have much respect for people who don't stand up for themselves. One of my mottos is, a good offense is better than a good defense. Don't mess with the people I love. I know I'm respected, but sometimes I want to be loved. I have no problem confronting a bully. If God wanted people to wear their hearts on their sleeve, he would have put it there. Under my tough exterior is a tender, loving heart.
Cool. Okay. Last one. Are you with me still? This is a lot of information. I'm sorry about that. We'll process a little bit more of it here in a second. But here we have number 8. Okay. This is the peacemaker, the one that kind of settles all this down.
I'm here in this place because I don't want to be around people.
Sorry, add for a second.
It's not a good idea to be out here alone.
I'll be fine.
Enneagram Type 9s, the peacemaker, desire to have inner stability and peace of mind. Type 9s have the unique ability to bring people of different worldviews and perspectives together. Whatever you guys want to do. What? Did you say something? I was thinking about a dream I had. It's really raining. The core fear of a 9 is being in conflict and losing connection with other people. The core weakness of a 9 is sloth, but that does not mean lazy. It means that they're falling asleep to their drive and passions in order to keep the peace. At their core, 9s long to know that their presence matters.
So this is usually a middle-born child. This is the one that's kind of in the middle. You'll see this personality come out because they're always trying to mediate between the siblings. So there's usually a peacemaker, one of these ones in the middle of your clan. And so they're pleasant. They, again, bend over backwards to be with other people. They're laid back and they're accommodating. What is it you want to do? Well, I'll help you do whatever you want to do. They're motivated by keeping the peace. If they see an argument coming up, they're jumping in there to see if they can settle that argument before it gets too aggressive. They're natural mediators, unselfish. They're flexible and inclusive in that. But they have trouble making decisions. They have a hard time because they're always wanting to meet other people's needs around them. They have a hard time expressing what they want and what they desire. And so they're overly dependent upon those type of situations. And they're stubborn and out of touch with anger and avoid conflict at all costs. And they don't want to be bothered by life, and so they just ignore their feelings. They just keep on cramming those feelings down. And so sin of sloth and having a hard time tapping into the real you.
Okay, what it's like to be a 9. I'll do almost anything to avoid conflict. I'm not a self-starter. Sometimes I get lost in doing trivial tasks while things that really need to get done get put off. I'm happy to go along with what others want to do. I tend to procrastinate. People seem to want me to be more decisive. When I get distracted and go off task, I give my attention to whatever is happening right in front of me. I often choose the path of least resistance. I find routines at work and home comforting, and I feel unsettled when something throws them off. Others see me as more peaceful than I really am. I have a hard time getting started, but once I do, I really get things done. I am a what you see is what you get person. I don't think of myself as being very important. People think I'm a good listener, even though I find it hard to pay attention in a long conversation. I don't like to take work home with me. Sometimes I tune out and think about the past. I don't enjoy big social gatherings as much as a quiet evening at home with the ones I love. Being outdoors is very soothing for me. I'm often quietly stubborn when people put demands on me. It would feel selfish to spend a whole day doing whatever I wanted to do.
Okay, so I bored you enough with 9 of them. Okay, so let's bring a little bit. Are you catching any numbers, other added numbers onto the first 4? You think of some other individuals in that 5 to 9 category of people? If you have siblings, I know like Eric has siblings, and you're always kind of think, how do those siblings fall into order, kind of thing? Who's got what kind of going on in their life, and how do you pinpoint them? But I want to. I use this, or we're talking about this, because I think we need to be sensitive to this one area. Right? I'm going to bring some theology into it. It says this in 1 John chapter 2, verse 16. We have 3 sins that we struggle with. We struggle with the sin of the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Okay? And I've always used this example for us. It's just, we have a main trunk of the tree called sin, and it's got 3 branches on it of that sin tree. And those 3 branches will bear fruit in your life based on how strong and how much they're fed in regards to your human nature, your desires. And so as a result of that, we're looking and saying, how do we categorize, or what are our tendencies towards that given sin? Lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, or pride of life. So what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to help us understand ourselves. When we see ourselves in one of these categories, we see how we kind of, and again, nobody's fitting ideally into one of these things. We kind of sometimes roll over into a couple of them, but there's usually a primary one. But I want to just show you the next slide, kind of help us understand where our struggles would come with our flesh, okay, with our nature that's within us. And so if you're in the categories of 8, 9, and 1, okay, there's really an understanding of the struggle with the flesh in regards to anger. If you're in an 8 category, it's the understanding of you're externalizing it, okay? If you're in the 9 category, you're forgetting about that anger. And if you're in the 1 category, you're internalizing it. You're just squelching it down. In the 2, 3, and 4 category, it's all about feelings, okay? And with these feelings, we're looks for feelings of others. In number 3, we have a hard time recognizing our own feelings and who we are. And number 4 is the understanding of only think about their own feelings and how they process those things. And then again, the last category of 3s is the fear categories, and that's 5, 6, and 7. And next, fear is externalize it, and number 6 is internalize it, and number 7 is just forget it. Life is fun, so you don't have to deal with the fear. So with our tendencies comes just understanding how do we process life? How do we go through the grid of understanding how we tick and how the people around us tick? Because once we have that better understanding, then we can say, okay, what's significant in my life and my priorities? Coming back to this sermon this morning, what are my priorities in life? What am I driven by? Am I driven by anger, fear, or feelings? If that's my natural tendency in my flesh response to life, that affects my priorities in life. You follow? You see the way that we're processing who we are. It has an understanding of how we again are in relationship with God. How we are again processing our responsibilities that He's given us to do, those good works that He's prepared in advance for us to do. So we can be motivated out of fear, acceptance. If we're not doing enough, or we're not doing it right, we're motivated by fear because we're not being accepted by either people or God. You mean that has an affection on how I prioritize my life, rather than us being authentic and being real with God and saying, okay, God, let's get rid of the flesh part of this. How do I just center down and buckle down to what you have in store for me to do? All these things can creep in and kind of corrupt the way that we think and process things. And so we want to get, again, back to our best of our possibility of walking with the Spirit and being in the Spirit. So again, we have a clarity when it comes to our walk with God. What I have for... Okay. If you would like to pursue this a little bit more, there's 2 different books. The Road Back to You is the one that Jess has been using. She's not finished this one altogether, but I'm really excited about her. What she shared with me from this book already is really taking care of your type. Okay, so there's an understanding of who are the types of people in your life and how can you minister to them based on their type of personality. So this is a book that's giving you, okay, how do I engage them? How do I love them? How do I care for them? What do they need in life? How can I, again, reach beyond my character type and understand what self-sacrifice and understand how to best love them? So really good content so far. Jess hasn't read it completely, but I think it's a great direction for us to think about. Thoughts, comments, questions, all those kind of things here as we just kind of wrap this up.
My first thought is, in today's society, how do we really know what people think, or how are they, because we really don't socialize with people
that much.
And a lot of the socializing we do is with our thumbs today. So how do we really know people?
Yeah.
Because you can say a lot
Yeah.
with your thumbs with no facial expression, nothing. And I think that's a real problem in today's society, is there is no interaction, personal interaction, or not the needed personal interaction with people.
Yeah. Jesus said in the Sermon on the things out of the heart comes through the mouth. It's not the mouth that corrupts you, but it's the things of the heart. So even in their text, even in the nonverbals, as far as a verbal face-to-face conversation, we can still see people's hearts coming out of them. And so people can show their insecurities, people can see their desires, what they're longing for, but that means we have to be extra on top of it. That means that we have to be ready to love them and care for them and understand. Again, we don't want to pigeonhole people, but we're simply trying to find out ways for us to minister appropriately to people, to minister, again, care and concern, understand where their perspective is coming from. And so sometimes we have to work a little harder to understand, because you're right, John. Facebook, phones, all the technology limits sometimes our ability to have good communication and to really get to know somebody. Jess and I, we were talking about tonight, one of those books was just giving us famous people that bear these different personality traits. So like Hillary Clinton was one of them that was mentioned. And if I remember, she was the resentful one. She's the one. She's the number one. And just living in that resentfulness. And so, we don't know her. We don't know what she's like on a daily basis, but, people who've been around her and identify her, that's one of her. Martin Luther King was number 8. Just that assertive, aggressive, going for the gusto. And Why did he lead all those meetings? That's the way he was wired. That's just his wiring to do that. So, again, all of us have a different makeup. And again, it's not one of those scientific, this is you, but you can identify and you can understand better how a person ticks by seeing some of the characteristics come out of it.
I think for me, it helps me have compassion for other people. Because I think you just want someone, you're like, why are they acting this way? And sometimes you think it's because, I don't know, you take a personal affront to it or something, but sometimes you just really are, people are wired differently. And so I think it just helps me to be like, oh, that action or the thing that they said makes a little bit more sense because this is sort of how they are. And I don't know. It's not, Todd and I talk so much about, it's not biblical, it's just a tool. It's just a way to help you interact with people in maybe a better way.
It's not biblical, but the world versus having God in your life, there should be a huge difference in how people respond to this and how you view people with problems or whatever. I mean, it just has a total different effect on your life.
Mm-hmm. It does. Only by God's grace and we overcome some of the sin nature that comes out in some of these personality tendencies. And so, it's only by God's grace that we can say, hey, I want to be a better person through this. I want to overcome this sin nature. I don't know if you've ever come up against a challenge or not. I perhaps you have, but Jess and I were just thinking back in our lives of somebody that came into our life that if we had known this a little bit more, we would have been more sensitive. Does that make sense? And understanding their perspective on life. Because remember, everything's a grid. They're viewing things through this grid. They're looking through these glasses. And if you can understand what the glasses are that they're looking through, you can become more empathetic. And so, again, I think it's a valuable thing for us just to, again, know how to work with one another in the body of Christ. That coming alongside and understanding one another, encouraging one another, and exhorting one another when needs have to happen. When these things come up, where we have to exhort one another, encourage each other, as confrontational as we need to be. Sometimes we have to be sensitive to where their nature is prodding them in their own desires. Good. Any other conversation?
Well, I guess I thought, so you read one, I'm like, I could be that one too. I could be that one. All the way through 9. So I think it's maybe the sin first, then the reaction. I think it's back, so Hillary Clinton, you could say she's resentful now, but she could have been on the campaign trail, very demanding, prideful, but then how she reacts to the circumstances changes how people you perceive their facade.
In Eric, I wonder this
so
too.
That's I think it's almost the sin, because I can see the sin on all 9 in myself, and how you deal with it is different.
And Eric, I wonder if their different life circumstances changes us in those categories. I mean, if there's different life circumstances, as you're going through life, you might process things one way because you're in life circumstances this way. And then as time goes on, you could now process them in another number, and so there's a possibility we change a little bit in that, in our ways that we see things and put things in the grid, respond to them.
Because I just think, I remember a guy working, and he was very much, you do this, that, but we were pouring concrete, and his form busted apart that he built. And then his personality completely changed. And he got so it's just, it's kind of, that's to label it, each one, it's just, I find it a little.
I get it. But if we can step back though, I do believe there's certain, we don't use transparencies anymore. We used to have old overhead projectors where we had transparencies they'd stick in there. And it would project something out on the screen. So whatever you put on that, whatever was on that transparency, it got reflected onto the wall.
I'm old enough to remember that.
I think there's certain personality traits that we carry that are on that transparency that get reflected on the life. There's certain sin natures that are innate within us that we are prone to propensity towards. And so, there might be a couple different transparencies on top of each other, but I think there can be just a weaning down of how I tick, how I process things, and it's not a constant, if you would, or it's not a science, as we said, certainly earlier. But I think we can kind of get a bearing a little bit on our nuances of life through gridding them up sometimes. And don't go over. I mean, you could go berserk with this. People have gone berserk with this.
There's so much.
You're off your rocker. Let's just get the understanding. And I think it's just becoming sensitive to ourselves and sensitive to others. Specifically for me, for today in today's context, is I want to stand before God and have Him say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." Not in all the things that I thought I was to do, but the things that He wanted me to do. Because if it's the stuff I thought I was going to do, He didn't say, "Well done, my good and faithful son." That you were your own servant. You did your own thing. I want Him to say, "God, Todd, you did my stuff. I want to commend you for doing what I gave you to do." And so it's just an understanding of how do we stand before God with the greatest anticipation, the greatest reward based on what God's given us ability and giftedness to do. And I want to get rid of the noise. I want to focus in on, and again, Jess and I talk about this. She asked me this afternoon, "So which one are you?" And many people have taken that jab at who am I in regards to fitting on this personality thing, and I'm like, I don't know. I see myself just like Eric said. There's different times, different ways. I can be in different numbers. And I don't know which one specifically. But anyway, it is a challenge. But it's a more introspection. Who are we? How are we wired? What is it that God wants us to do? And how do we again get past our natures of the corruption within our nature to bend us towards certain things so that we can do godly things?
I think sometimes, and I guess I have to go back to years of being a police officer and a detective and interviewing people, you may sometimes get a facade that someone's putting on. And when you break it down, they're not that number at all. So you may perceive somebody one way. And deep down inside, I'm sure to my family I come across as one. But there's things inside that, maybe I don't share them. Maybe I would share with you, but I don't share with them, and I don't feel myself as one. So I think we sometimes put on a facade of something we feel we need to also. And you got to get through that to actually find the actual number.
Yeah. And again, Enneagram is not, the truth is the scripture. We look at ourselves from the sin perspective. What sin am I active in? What am I bending towards? What insecurities do I have? So we want to go to the scriptures because that's the word of God. That's the truth. But this is just a tool that kind of helps point us and direct us. And again,
nothing else, it's great conversation starter over the dinner table. And it is super popular, so it is something even your secular friends will totally know. Most people know about it, so it's kind of a fun thing to just start conversation with, to be like, "Hey, do you know what number you are?" It's kind of a fun thing. But I just know, for me personally, I am straight up textbook one. There is no doubt our way around that. And so it's super helpful for me because sometimes just recognizing that anger, I remember even growing up and even as a young mom, constantly stuffing that anger, being like, this anger is so wrong. And yes, it is wrong, but recognizing that stuffing it is not good either, and learning how to be constantly coming to the cross to be like, help me process this better. Help me to stop feeling so angry at my children. Do you know what I mean? For what? Because I just never would have thought I was an angry person until I had kids, and then I just I just lost it all. You know what I mean? But I think that was one of the things that was super helpful to me, and even just to laugh at some of those idiosyncrasies. One of my friends, I was reading those things to, and she's like, "Oh my word, Jess, I can totally see you stewing in the other line at the grocery store, being like, that person has 11 things in the 10 checkout." And she's the type of person to be like, "I got 15 things, but it's shorter and I'm just gonna go," because that's her personality. So I don't know, it's just been sort of fun.
kind of like to look at the book just to find out how to help certain personalities. I feel like that would
Me
really
too.
use.
I'm claiming it. I'll own it. I should put it on my funeral. Helper.
My Nana had it, so the legacy lives on, I guess.
Okay, you better get the same day off.
See, but that's where it's helpful, because now we know when you tell us you're fine, you're not.
Oh, goodness. Well, good. Enjoyed your time. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for thought processing. Again, as I said at the close of everything, just pray. The best tool we have is God. God reveals His will, and we have to learn how to just rely on Him moment by moment. Where we go, where we do, where does He want to use us, and joining Him. So, because God is big enough, He knows exactly who we are, and He knows what we need, and He knows what ministries we have in store for us. So we just simply have to rely. So, okay, let's go ahead and pray, and we'll get out of here. Thank you, God, for making us us. You made us each unique individuals. Lord, you've blessed us with abilities and talents. Lord, you've, in your laughter, I just imagine you look at us and how we're trying to work through life and trying to figure ourselves out. So God, I thank you for making us unique in our ways of identity. And so God, I pray that you'd help us to formulate who we are to the best of our ability for your glory. And so God, I pray that you'd use us in unique ways with your mind and heart. And God, would you again bless us and use us for great things, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.